Hi, folks. So I'm going to read for you the final draft of the prosimetrum I've been working on for about the last week. I think it's the fifth or sixth draft iteration. The title is On Certain Conflicts That Arise Between Love Life and Career. The piece is about pretty much exactly what the title suggests. To be a little bit more specific, the idea is this. It's often enough in life that we are comparing ourselves to one another over various issues, whether it's socioeconomic or how we look, etc. And the issue, even more specifically, that I wanted to address in this prosimetrum is what happens when you have two lovers who may be in a place of comparing themselves to each other, and how does that have any kind of sort of psychological impact, etc. So here we go. It goes like this. Blessed with certain, oh, I got that wrong already. Forgive me there. Blessed with health insurance that, footnote number 1, reminder to self, that is a relative pronoun, like which. However, but which never refers to people. Source, the Grammar Bible by Michael and Auriel Douglas, published by St. Martin's Griffin, 2004, pages 177 to 183. Long-term question to ponder, inspired by Amanda Montell. She wrote, quote, people tend to think of prescriptive grammar. That's the grammar your English teacher made you learn, as this almighty, unchanging force that has been there forever, like gravity or the sun. We forget that grammar rules are a human invention and that they're constantly evolving. This is published, by the way, by HarperCollins Publishers, 2019, pages 137 to 138. And we can either do our best to get on board or not, but whatever we choose, we can trust that language will move along its merry way regardless. The bigots and the pedants will be left at the station, and a generation of linguistically bendy, gender-inclusive whizzes will ride off into the sunset. It's pages 166 to 168. Blessed with health insurance that your employer offers, better quality, more coverage than any of our previous policies. Oh, the days when we could not find a psychotherapist willing to take clients with Medicaid. But today, we're so privileged. Footnote number 2. I'm especially privileged. White privilege, male privilege, heterosexual privilege, college education privilege, grad school privilege, middle class upbringing privilege, American privilege, New Jerseyan privilege. Indeed, New Jersey is a remarkably rich and diverse state. Today, we're so privileged. But what a brutal shame that so many cannot claim, cannot say the same. You work so hard for this privilege. Too hard, baby love. Those crazy 14-hour shifts at the hospital. That's just too long of a shift. Footnote number 3. Research does show that as the proportion of hospital nurses working shifts of more than 13 hours increased, patients' dissatisfaction with care increased. Furthermore, nurses working shifts of 10 hours or longer were up to 2.5 times more likely than nurses working shorter shifts to experience burnout and job dissatisfaction. and to intend to leave the job. Extended shifts undermine nurses' well-being, may result in expensive job turnover, and can negatively affect patient care. Policies regulating work hours for nurses, similar to those set for resident physicians, may be warranted. Nursing leaders should also encourage workplace cultures that respect nurses' days off and vacation time, promote nurses' prompt departure at the end of the shift, and allow nurses to refuse to work overtime without retribution. See, the longer the shifts for the hospital nurses, the higher the levels of burnout and patient dissatisfaction. Written by Amy Witowski-Stimfel, Douglas M. Sloan, and Linda H. Aiken for Health Affairs. Volume 31, number 11, November 2012. That's just too long a shift. It's immoral, it's unethical, it's wrong, it's bullshit. Putting medical professionals in a position where they're trying not to yawn and yawn and yawn and yawn and yawn because they've got to pay attention to what's going on and help their patients get better, get strong. I'm so lucky to have access to a psychotherapist and psychiatrist. And it seems as though the quetiapine my psychiatrist prescribed for me may be easing my mad, crazy anxiety about having and gaining too many flaws, about Murphy's Law, about all the dissociation, depersonalization, derealization, foreboding trepidation, and self-loathing I feel and experience. I was convinced that I'm bad at critical thinking, that I'm slow, that my IQ is exceptionally low. One failure after another, it seemed, you know? Footnote number 4. Awareness of certain hierarchies can affect many a psyche. In the grand scheme of things, eternally speaking, I mean, we're all made more or less astonishingly equal by the universal phase of death, rendering all hierarchies merely transient. Most unfortunately, however, the transient nature of virtually everything that I can think of ceased to help me experience any sort of dogmatic reassurance, courtesy of Hindu, Eastern, Asian, Schopenhauerian, Maya, Buddhist nirvana, or any other variant of paradoxically optimistic-ish nihilism and oblivion. Around the time when I could no longer stand being so awfully devoid of knowledge and critical thinking skills, and so much loneliness, such that I was ignorant of concepts like federal debt, community, reason, the devil's advocate, etc., and realized furthermore, it would take a lot more than out of mind, out of sight evasiveness to significantly reduce intense and chronic anxiety, depression, and hypersensitivity. In other words, the transient nature of things, quite unfortunately, does not, in of itself, post-Trump era and all, we now know that sophists can build and exploit very ignorant, sadomasochistic white supremacy cults. Quite unfortunately, transience in of itself, overall, does not and will not pay one's rent or afford a person's quality health insurance, etc. Furthermore, it is my experience, at least, that hierarchy awareness, it's a natural property of one's faculty of reason, one's knowledge of concepts to compare and contrast things, as to identify and establish relationships and distinctions, especially the sort that leads to your awareness of, shall we say, one's place in a hierarchy. When you are on the bottom rung of certain hierarchies, it may seem like a tug of war between your ability to keep your head up and a capacity to experience, feel, express disappointment. Sometimes disappointment that hurts. Having spent so much of my life, or believing I have spent so much of it, among my fellow bottom dwellers, i.e. the lower economic classes, among the very sexually frustrated, the seemingly unliked, those branded for a variety of reasons ranging from neurological to psychological to biased social construction to outright ignorance, below average, intellectually speaking, and considering the fact that there's always causes for things, regardless of whether or not we manage to figure them out, being perhaps quite ironically, question mark, quote, everybody also considers me an idiot for some reason. And in fact, I was so ill that I was like an idiot. But what sort of idiot am I now, when I myself understand that I'm considered an idiot? From The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky, Richard Pevere and Larissa Volokonsky translation, First Vintage Classics edition, 2003, page 75. Perhaps, being quite ironically a very curious lad, I begin to wonder what the hell is so wrong with me that I can't seem to advance a millimeter higher, while so many among my family, friends, acquaintances, they are on a roll, moving on up to the east side, if you will. And when I just can't seem to figure it the fuck out, the most reasonable default answer, so it would seem, is that I'm just not good, intelligent, handsome, strong, sane, creative, etc. as those higher ups. Well, how do I look my wife in the eyes and speak of a new house, a second dog, children, vacations to Europe, a new car, etc., when I truly cannot help but fear that it is a fact that she cultivates our good, ever-improving life? I'm holding her back, weighing her down, that I'm a parasite, that all of their mean self-loathing, sophistry, and rhetoric. Yes, sophistry, as I'm not saying that self-loathing is accurate or reasonable. I'm saying that bullshit can get to you, and it takes an immense amount of positive self-talk to dispel all of that bullshit. Objectively speaking, scientifically speaking, the psychology and neurology of positive versus negative thinking. This is part of reality. But here's the positive thinking. One failure after enough, it seemed. You know? Not so nice of myself. It's literally bad for one's health. Not so nice of me to insult myself. It's literally bad for one's health. Footnote number 5. Psychologist and sexologist Dr. Emily Nagoski explained it like this. When you get right down to it, self-criticism is yet another form of stress. an evolutionary adaptive mechanism to help us to escape threats. When we think, I am an inadequate person, literally, our stress hormone levels increase. Your body reacts to negative self-evaluations as if you're under attack. The solution is to practice replacing self-criticism with self-kindness. Self-criticism is associated with worse health outcomes, both mental and physical, and more loneliness. That's from the book Come As You Are, the surprising new science that will radically transform your sex life, published by Simon & Schuster Paperbacks, Kindle edition, 2015, pages 157 and 158. Not so nice to insult thyself. It's absolutely bad for a human's health. Now, some of the anxiety has subsided, and I wonder, is it really the quetiapine? Or is it the placebo effect? Could it be that I finally grasped the concept of self-respect? In any event, I think I've always dreamt up grand visions and ambitions pretty well. Footnote number 6. When I was a kid, I dreamt of being a martial artist like Bruce Lee, then a movie star like John Travolta, then a songwriter like one of the Bee Gees, like John Lennon, like Bob Dylan, then a famous print book poet like Allen Ginsberg, then a philosopher like Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, Ayn Rand, Aristotle, and then President of the United States, like Abraham Lincoln, then a political commentator like Rachel Maddow, and then a novelist like Dostoevsky, Thomas Mann, a billionaire like Jeff Bezos, a dog trainer like the folks from the St. Hubert Animal Welfare Center, the porn star Haiti Switch, like her. I dreamt of living in a beach house on a Caribbean island, living in Western or Nordic Europe, directly helping remove Trump from office before the next election, living more than 120 years, flying via mind over matter, etc. In any event, I think I've always dreamt up grand visions and ambitions pretty well. However, making them come true, for me, that's hard as hell. What is harder yet, my darling, is the shame and guilt I feel because I just can't seem to get my career started and make it as an artist, one that's not starving. Beat the odds, get that dream job as you work yourself to the bone at the hospital, as you build our dream home, all too often on your own, and grow a beautiful surplus while I hold us back by sinking more and more into debt. Footnote number 7. Alas, I earn roughly $10,000 a year, give or take, as of this writing. Yes, alas, while I hold us back by sinking deeper into debt. Oh, sweet soulmate of mine. Oh, my brilliant and beautiful partner in crime. It depressed me. I needed to find some place and time out of mind. Footnote number 8. Time Out of Mind is the title of the 1997 Bob Dylan album, his 30th studio album. I needed to find some time and place out of mind and pretend that I didn't need so much help, like unemployment insurance and constant reassurance. But now I really am trying to improve via knowledge and skills gained as a part-time graduate school student. studying theories on poetics, aesthetics, and beauty. And today, my love, I say that you and I enter a new phase to better days, as Natasha Bedingfield says, to that new house with a lot more space and a fireplace with a second dog for our first one to play with. Meantime, I hope you can forgive me for denying you access to my real thoughts and feelings instead of madly ranting and raving, behaving irresponsibly while utterly smashed so I could detach and feel artificially and temporarily relaxed, ignoring ideas you said you had, and playing politics with questions you asked. Thank you so very much.